A supermodel hands a police officer a Pepsi. Within hours, memes flood social media. Critics invoke real protest photos. The backlash hits so fast that Pepsi pulls the ad in under 48 hours. A feel-good commercial, a global brand, an accidental political minefield. An in-house studio that decided traditional oversight was optional. A celebrity whose fame became a liability. One creative choice that rewrote how brands approach controversy forever. All from a 2-minute commercial that cost millions to make and about 48 hours to destroy. If you love watching corporate chaos unfold in real time, hit that like button and subscribe to Money Legends. This masterclass in what not to do is just getting started. Pepsi had a problem most companies would kill for. They were boring. The century-old soda company sold billions of cans every year, but to millennials scrolling through Instagram, Pepsi felt like something their parents drank. Coca-Cola owned nostalgia. Energy drinks owned edge. Pepsi desperately needed a personality transplant, so they built Creators League Studio, an in-house content arm designed to move at internet speed. Traditional agencies take months to produce campaigns. Creators League would move in weeks. No external oversight slowing things down. No drawn-out approval chains. Just a room full of marketers convinced they understood exactly what young people wanted. The whole operation ran under a platform called Live for Now, which sounds exactly like something a committee of executives would name a youth initiative after 3 hours of brainstorming and 4 whiteboards. The brief demanded everything at once. Millennial reach through authentic storytelling, cinema verite visuals that felt spontaneous, a sweeping anthem with universal appeal, and most critically, a tidy emotional payoff engineered specifically for viral social clips. Compressed timelines created dangerous shortcuts. Fewer external consultants meant less historical perspective on the imagery they were borrowing. Faster internal approvals bypassed the usual red flag reviewers. The team used protest imagery because it looked cinematic, not because they understood what it meant to the people who lived it. And at the center of the entire spot sat one absurd premise. A single can of Pepsi diffusing tension between protesters and police. The creative team genuinely believed this would land as a message of unity. They saw optimism. They saw hope. They saw a shareable moment that would make Pepsi feel relevant again. What they didn't see was how it would look to everyone else. The studio had built the bomb without realizing it. Speed had replaced judgment. Viral ambition had replaced cultural awareness. And they were about to hand that bomb to one of the most famous faces on the planet. Kendall Jenner had 94 million Instagram followers. For Pepsi's marketing team, that number solved every problem. The 21-year-old model and reality TV star guaranteed instant reach. One post from her account could generate more eyeballs than a Super Bowl commercial. She was young, photogenic, and famous for being famous. Exactly the kind of blank slate celebrity brands love because audiences project whatever they want onto her. But there was a catch nobody in the approval chain seemed to consider. Casting a wealthy, privileged model as the face of a protest movement meant the entire ad's credibility now rested on whether audiences would accept the substitution. A single person would carry the symbolic weight of millions of real activists. The production team built every frame around making that substitution feel natural. They filled the background with smiling, attractive marchers, carrying blank placards, no specific demands, no actual causes, just generic peace symbols that could mean anything to anyone. The camera lingered on Jenner's face in slow motion as she joined the crowd, her expression carefully calibrated to convey vague inspiration. The climax pushed the absurdity even further. Jenner approaches a line of police officers. Tension builds. Then she hands one officer a can of Pepsi. He drinks it. The crowd cheers. Problem solved. In 2 minutes of footage, the creative team had reduced complex social movements to a costume party. Real protesters risk arrest, injury, and worse. This ad suggested the solution was always just a cold beverage and a pretty face. The entire premise depended on a single bet. Every viewer would either accept that a supermodel could represent authentic protest, or they wouldn't. There was no middle ground, no room for partial buy-in, and the internet was about to deliver its verdict with the subtlety of a sledgehammer. The ad went live on April 4th, 2017. By sunrise the next morning, Pepsi was trending for all the wrong reasons. Early reactions ranged from confused to hostile. Viewers posted screenshots asking what exactly the protesters were marching for. Comedy accounts started remixing the footage, but the real damage came when the criticism found its visual evidence. Someone posted a side-by-side comparison, and that's when the backlash found its weapon. On one side, Kendall Jenner in designer clothes, handing a Pepsi to a smiling cop, while a diverse crowd of models cheered behind her. On the other, Aisha Evans, a black nurse from Pennsylvania, standing calmly in a flowing dress as two riot police officers in full tactical gear rushed toward her during a 2016 protest in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. The Evans photograph had become iconic for its quiet dignity and raw power imbalance. A real woman facing real consequences for a real cause. The Pepsi ad suddenly looked like a grotesque parody. The comparison tore across Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook within hours. Mockery sharpened into moral accusation. Critics argued Pepsi hadn't just created a tone-deaf commercial, they had actively stolen the visual language of black protest and stripped it of all meaning. Influential voices piled on. Journalists wrote think pieces. Activists posted threads. Bernice King, daughter of Martin Luther King Jr., tweeted the comparison with a caption that cut deep. If only Daddy would have known about the power of Pepsi. By the end of day one, the ad wasn't a marketing experiment anymore. It was evidence. Every frame became proof that a major corporation had treated decades of civil rights struggle as an aesthetic to borrow, a vibe to capture, a trend to exploit. The memes kept multiplying, the parody edits kept coming, and inside Pepsi's headquarters, executives were realizing they had approximately 0 good options left. 24 hours. That's how long Pepsi lasted before waving the white flag. On April 5th, 2014, the company posted a statement across Twitter, their website, and every PR channel they could reach. The message was brief and carefully lawyered. Clearly, we missed the mark, and we apologize. We did not intend to make light of any serious issue. We are removing the content and halting any further rollout. Then came a line that raised eyebrows across the marketing world. We also apologize for putting Kendall Jenner in this position. The apology to their own talent before the communities they'd offended told you everything you need to know about where Pepsi's priorities actually sat. Protect the celebrity relationship first. Acknowledge the cultural harm second. Hope everyone moves on by next week. The speed of the retreat was genuinely remarkable. Global brands don't pull multi-million-dollar campaigns overnight. There are contracts to review, media buys to cancel, legal teams to consult. Someone at Pepsi looked at the trajectory of the backlash and decided that every hour the ad stayed live was making things exponentially worse. They were probably right, but speed created its own problems. The rapid deletion couldn't erase the screenshots already circulating across every platform. The memes had taken on a life of its own. Bernice King's tweet wasn't going anywhere. By pulling the ad so quickly, Pepsi accidentally confirmed that even they knew they'd done something indefensible, and the apology itself left critical questions unanswered. Who greenlit this concept? How did it survive internal review? What changes would prevent the next disaster? The statement offered regret without accountability, withdrawal without explanation. Critics noticed. The corporate retreat stopped the bleeding but did nothing to rebuild trust. Pepsi had executed a textbook crisis response. Acknowledge, apologize, remove, and still managed to look like they were running away from their own mess. The ad was gone from official channels, but the bill was just starting to come due. How much does a 24-hour mistake actually cost? Industry analysts started running the numbers almost immediately. The production alone had reportedly been shot in Thailand with a full crew, professional extras, and enough equipment to make a short film. Conservative estimates put the production and poll cost between $2 million and $5 million. Talent fees for a model at Jenner's level typically run between $400,000 and $1 million for a single campaign. That's real money, but it's also money Pepsi could absorb without blinking. The company generates billions in revenue every quarter. A few $1 million in wasted production barely registers on the balance sheet. The actual damage was harder to calculate. Every hour of executive time spent on crisis management was an hour not spent on actual business. Legal teams reviewed every aspect of the campaign for liability. PR consultants billed premium rates for damage control. Agency relationships that took years to build suddenly required awkward conversations about oversight and accountability. Kendall Jenner's reputation took a hit she'd spent years trying to repair. In a later episode of Keeping Up with the Kardashians, she broke down in tears discussing the backlash, calling it the lowest point in her career. The ad that was supposed to boost her brand had temporarily made her a symbol of tone-deaf privilege. But the most expensive consequence didn't show up on any invoice. Pepsi had generated millions of dollars worth of media coverage, all of it negative. The campaign, designed to make the brand feel culturally relevant, had instead made them a punchline, a cautionary tale with a logo attached. For years afterward, any brand considering protest imagery or social movement aesthetics would have someone in the room ask, "Are we sure this isn't going to be another Pepsi?" The Monday after Pepsi pulled the ad, marketing departments across America held emergency meetings. Not about Pepsi specifically, about themselves. Every creative director, brand manager, and CMO suddenly wondered if they had a Kendall Jenner moment sitting in their own approval pipeline. Campaigns that seemed edgy last week now looked potentially catastrophic. PR and legal teams gained veto power over campaigns they'd previously only reviewed for obvious liability. Any concept touching social movements, protest imagery, or political themes now required external consultation. Brands started hiring advisors for affected communities to review concepts before production even began. The celebrity calculation changed too. Before Pepsi, casting a famous face was mostly about reach and recognition. Afterward, talent selection became a risk assessment. Could this person credibly represent this message? Would their background create uncomfortable questions? Was their fame an asset or a liability waiting to explode? Marketing conferences added that Pepsi ad to their curriculum within months. Business schools wrote case studies. PR training programs used it as their primary example of symbolic appropriation gone wrong. An entire generation of marketing professionals learned their first lesson about cultural sensitivity from a soda commercial that lasted 2 days. The most lasting change was cultural, not procedural. Before Pepsi, brands treated social movements as free material, imagery anyone could borrow if the lighting was good enough. Afterward, that assumption died. Symbolism became something you had to earn, not just capture. One pulled ad had rewritten the rulebook for an entire industry. Pepsi meant well. That's what made the disaster so instructive. Good intentions don't protect you when you're borrowing imagery from movements you haven't earned the right to represent. The communities who lived those struggles get to decide whether your tribute feels like solidarity or theft. And if you haven't done the work to understand the difference, the internet will teach you the hard way. The real lesson isn't about approval processes or cultural consultants. It's similar than that. If you're reaching for symbols that belong to someone else's struggle, you'd better be absolutely certain you understand what you're picking up. Pepsi learned that lesson for $5 million. You just learned it for free. I'd love to see your thoughts about this, or other marketing errors. What's the worst corporate tone-deaf moment you've ever seen? Drop it in the comments below. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and if you thought this story was wild, the next one is even crazier. Definitely not to be missed. Click here to watch it now.